Three Kings. It is a film on Rotten Tomatoes that scored an amazing 94%. But it's also through the speakers I have on this table. W-King make good value speakers. Not the best speakers in the world, but a bit of bass, a decent price. Most people are happy. Now, it wasn't a video I was thinking about doing, but you did say, can you compare the Go Plus Play, which I got recently, to some of the W-Kings? Took me by surprise because, how's that a fair test? We know, I presume, no spoilers, it's going to kind of trounce it because this is not a cheap speaker. 245 quid. Amazon.co.uk. You can buy through my links if you want to. $224 on Amazon.com. But we're talking £70 to £100, depending on the deal. Any one of the other three W-Kings. We've got the W-King D8, the first one that came along. Gave us quite a bit of wallop. It was a budget option against the JBL Extreme 3, but now showing its age a bit. Then we had W-King D9. On paper, it went from 50 watts to 60 watts, and we were all really, really happy, but the tuning kind of weird. But yeah, a lot of power. You can get some bass, but if it had been something, if it had been tuned by Alan Ross, it may have been a little bit better. And then we got the WKing X10, taking very direct aim, clearly, at the JBL Extreme 3. Just look at that form factor. One thing I always mentioned was the problem with this Toblerone shape is you cannot pick it up, and as your hands are twice the size of mine, and that's why I have to use the strap to pick that one up. Now, on paper, this one is 70 watts. So it went 50, 60, 70, but of course we know many ways of kind of marketing the watts. We need to know RMS. If it doesn't say RMS, forget it. It could be anything. So we've got three budget options. The thing I should note or tell you was W-King got in touch with me to point out, up to now we had the WKing X10, but owing to the worldwide chip shortage, they've had to put a new chip in the latest WKing X10s, and so they're calling the latest WKing X10s the X10-1. And does it sound any different? I've got no idea. They said they will send me another one, and if they do send me another one, I will compare them to each other to see if they sound the same or not. The other thing to note is the one I have in my hand, the WKing X10, 55.5 watt hours, but the new WKing X10-1, 48.8 watt hours. It is a smaller battery. That's something to watch when you're buying the WKing X10. The versions, is it the X10 or is it the X10-1? All the new ones will be X10-1, is my understanding. And the other thing to note is WKing X10, the one I've got in my hand, supports fast charging because it's obviously not the latest chip, I guess, in the X10-1. The X10-1 will not support fast charging. So that's something to note. The point of the video is I already said, I like this speaker. It's got big bass and it's got a reasonable balance. It's not the most balanced, but it's a reasonable balance. I have to point out, a lot of people have been saying, yeah, we liked it till we had battery issues. A lot of you, not one or two or three, but a lot of you have been telling me you've got battery issues. So I'm putting it out there. I like this Harman Kardon Go Plus blade, but I've not had it long enough to tell you if I'm experienced battery issues. Anecdotally, there are battery issues. The other thing to note is, it looks like they're doing the JBL thing. Harman Kardon obviously is like the lifestyle version of JBL. The different versions on the different speakers. This is the GG version. A lot of you are telling me, you listened to this maybe years ago, came out in 2016, and you're telling me, yeah, I had a listen, but I didn't like it on the ears. Now, while I would call this fizzy, and maybe a little gritty in the highs, I wouldn't say it's harsh. I never have to cover up my ears. It's not the smoothest, clearest high end of all time. It's not the greatest high end, but we've got wide tweeters, wide woofers, and it's a wide sound. So to me, it's fine. But I don't know if my version is different. Obviously, I don't know what firmware I have now got, and if they've tuned that differently to earlier versions. That's something to note. Some people have found the Go Plus plate a little bit harsh sounding. I personally do not find it harsh sounding, and that would be something I'm quite sensitive to. Let's get on. Let's compare the Go Plus Play, 66% volume on the Go Plus Play, to loudness matched on all these three speakers, starting with the first W-King I personally ever got hold of, the W-King D8.
You can call me baby, but only for tonight. I can rock your world, boy, I'll take you for a ride. You can call me baby, but only for tonight. I can rock your world, boy, I'll take you for a ride. Catch me on a plane on my way to Italy, Cartier and Tiffany's. Catch me on a plane on my way to Italy, Italy. Diamonds on the dash, I buy all my cars in cash. Diamonds on the dash, I buy all my cars in cash. I'm dripping in Cartier and Tiffany. You can call me baby, but only for tonight. I can rock your world, boy, I'll take you for a ride. You can call me baby, but only for tonight. I can rock your world, boy, I'll take you for a... You can call me baby, but only for tonight. I can rock your world, boy, I'll take you for a ride. You can call me baby, but only for tonight. I can rock your world, boy, I'll take you for a ride. Take you for a ride. Take you for a ride. I'm dripping in Cartier and Tiffany.
When I first got the W-King D8, it was good value. I was really happy with it because it was a budget option to the JBL Extreme 1 and JBL Extreme 2 at the time. Decent dollop of bass. Look, it's not hi-fi. It's not the most high-end of sounds. But for the 70, 80 quid that you're expected to pay at the time, that was good value. We've moved on a little bit. And of course, we're talking about a bigger, much more, three of those for one of those, much more expensive speaker. So of course, yes, it's, when I say it's showing its age, this came out in 2016. I don't know how it's been tweaked since the original version, but I certainly like what I'm hearing in 2021. The high end is not as extended as it could be into the harmonics, but it's nice, big and open, and I find the balance, for me, works given the big bass on it. The Go Plus Play against the W-King D8, it doesn't go well, does it, for the W-King D8? Sounds hard edge, brittle, and actually sounds bass light. It's not really bass light, but compared to the big, mid and deep bass you're going to get on the Go Plus Play, it's really out of its league. It's making it sound a bit silly. The point being, in the real world, that's your only speaker, you're going to get a decent amount of bass, but when you put it against a speaker like that, that's much bigger, it's a lot more expensive, and you're getting quite a bit of what you pay for, it simply can't keep up. Obviously, so I'd have to say it's a massive win in that AB, which you guys out there asked for. The Go Plus Play wins hands down, but is that a shock to you? It's not even a shock to me mum, to be quite honest with you. We've done the D8, didn't go too well. The JBL Extreme Killer is what they hope for the W-King X10. Remember, you're probably going to get the X10-1 when you buy the latest version. How does that stand up now to the Go Plus Play? Well, the X10 does a bit better than the W-King D8, but not enough to close the gap in any meaningful way. It's still a big win for the Go Plus Play. It's very upper bass heavy on the W-King X10. It's in this A-B comparison, it sounds a bit thin and a bit compressed, where you're hearing the big full bass of the Harman Kardon Go Plus Play to the point where it sounds a bit harsh. You know, another example where you hear the speaker on its own, it sounds fine, but when you get to compare it to something else, yes, it's a lot more expensive. Yes, it's bigger, but that's the difference. That's when you go up in price and size. That's the difference you would hope to be finding. So you asked for the comparison, you know, and it was, to me, it was something I would never have done if you didn't ask. But that's the result. You know, it's a decent speaker for the money. It offers good value. But when you put it up against a £250 speaker, 3 times the price of that, it just can't cope with it. There's 2 decibels more in overall bass on the Go Plus plate. Remember, double the power, you'd expect to get another 3 decibels out. So 2 decibels is a big difference. And at 50 hertz, which is, you know, what we think is the start of sub bass, the Go Plus Play is 7 decibels up. 7 decibels is huge. Double the power, you get another 3 decibels. Double the actual perceived loudness, you normally expect about another 10 decibels. So we're getting on to almost doubling what you'd hear on the on the X10 when you move to the Harman Kardon Go Plus Play in terms of that deep bass. So that just leaves the W-King D9. Can it change the balance? Could this be the W-King Go Plus Play killer?
Well, maybe I'm done, maybe I've lost. Still putting up a fight because I love my mom, I love my family. When I was young, they would all look after me. I don't know why, but I feel like a burden. I spend my life overthinking my purpose. Can't really cry, I'm so used to the hurt. Trauma keeps up at me at the wrong moment. I just wanna numb the pain for a minute. I just wanna run away on vacation. I don't know what else to say now. I just need to numb the pain. I just wanna run away on vacation. I don't know what else to say now. I just need to numb the pain.
And I have to say, of all the 3 W-Kings I tried in this comparison, I think that one gets the closest to the Harman Kardon Go Plus Play, but that doesn't mean it's getting close to the Harman Kardon Go Plus Play. It's not quite as hard-edged as I described the other W-Kings, or indeed as harsh as the other W-Kings sounding, but it can't match the bass. The full deep bass of the Go Plus Play is obvious. It's the obvious difference when you're going from one to the other. The W-King, the Go Plus Play in these comparisons may sound a bit recessed and a bit subdued and a bit smooth. The reality is it's the way these W-Kings are tuned. So you're hearing a lot more of the highs and the mids, which is making, because of the amount of bass on the Go Plus Play, making it sound a bit recessed. In the real world, if you're just listening to the Go Plus Play, I don't really get the sense of it being recessed. It's quite smooth, but as I said, it's not the greatest in terms of the highs. It is very fizzy and gritty, but I wouldn't say sibilant and I wouldn't say harsh, which some people are describing at. As remember, I've got the GG version, so we're going to push them to maximum volume. Remember, if you put the mains lead into the Go Plus Play, it will go a bit louder, a couple of decibels louder. It's not a game changer. Obviously, you don't have the same effect on the W-Kings, so I'm only doing on battery. And the clue is, Alanos reviews portable Bluetooth speakers. That's why I don't really have a big emphasis on what happens when you stick a mains lead in to go louder. Just remember, it's not the biggest battery on the Go Plus Play at 22.2 watt hours. Because when you compare it, you know, we know Harman Kardon got a bit weird, aren't they, in their batteries. 22.2 watt hours is not big. There's 11 watt hours on the Onyx Studios 6 and 7. I mean, I would say weird, but that really doesn't sum it up. It's just, I'm trying not to be rude, but a polite word, nonsense, I would say, but I could say something stronger. And in terms of that, just to give you an example, the D8, 29.6 watt hours, the D9, 44.4 watt hours, and the X10, 55.5 watt hours on smaller speakers. That's the size of battery you can put in if you can be bothered to put the battery in. It's not a lot of money. Why are they not doing it on their speakers? It's very, very strange. Anyway, maximum volume test. What are you expecting to go the loudest? Because on paper, that's a 100 watt speaker. Obviously with the mains lead in, but still, you'd expect it to go louder than speakers rated at 50 watts for the D8, 60 watts for the D9, 70 watts for the X10. In what way are they rated? What? Remember, if it doesn't say RMS, it doesn't mean anything, but I'm just telling you that's what they're saying on paper, and that's what the headlines you're seeing on Amazon, and that's what people are probably paying for. Oh, I got myself a 70 watt speaker and it cost me a £5. Oh yeah, but how are they measuring it? That's another matter. Maximum volume test. So, you will have already noted, each of the W-Kings has a separate EQ mode where it goes a bit louder. How does it go louder? Well, it reduces the bass, so it can add a bit more in the mids and highs. If you don't know, if you're one of the few that still don't know, it takes a lot more of the amp to drive the bass. So if you don't drive the bass, you can go louder because it's easier to drive the mids and the highs. The EQ mode on all these speakers, you've got a little button that's got 3 long lines. You give that a push, the blue light will start flashing. you know you're in EQ mode. I think on one of these, on the X10, they call it outdoor mode. And the others, it's probably something similar. I just call it EQ mode. It's really, you only really need to use it if you want more volume. The thing about it is it's a bit tricky because it's one of those tricks a lot of companies use. They have some so-called EQ mode where you push it, but they're actually just going a couple of decibels louder. But a lot of you don't know better. You hear it, oh, it sounds more dynamic, and you think, oh wow, I just got myself more bass and I didn't pay a single penny more for it. But all they've done is they've reduced the volume on the other EQ mode. You've gone a bit loud, so it's easy to fake these EQ modes. But they know you guys, you love it in the marketing when it's 48 million EQ modes and it go vocal mode and it go even louder. People, it's a sad state of affairs. People lap it up. They think they're actually getting something for nothing, and you're not. The point being, as you would have already have heard, I hope, the EQ modes do go louder, but it's a bit piercing because, as I said, they're dropping the bass, they're giving you more mids and more highs, and it's not very balanced. But yeah, okay, if you're sitting 500 feet away and you absolutely need to go a bit louder, then it works. But it's harsh, it's not a nice listen. We don't have an EQ mode on the Harman Kardon Go Plus Play, and of course, it's the quietest of the bunch. But why is it the quietest? Well, they're not reducing the bass for you. In fact, even as much, they do go a lot louder, W-Kings, and yet we've still got more bass extension on the Go Plus Play. So I don't know what works for you, but I would say yes, you get. Having said that, the default mode on the WKing D9 is actually louder than the EQ mode on the D8. As we've moved on from the WKing D8, I would say, starting to show its age. So in terms of volume, getting past the EQ modes, but even if, bear in mind, even if it's EQ modes matter, it's still louder in default mode. Even louder still on the EQ mode, but only EQ mode, only default modes for me work. And so, of this, all of them, including the Go Plus Play, if I had to listen to something as loud as it will go but still be balanced, I go for the WKing D9. But yes, we have more bass on the Harman Kardon Go Plus Play. But I know you'll say it doesn't go as loud as I would expect, especially when the headline figures are 100 watts. Remember, that's with the mains lead plugged in, and remember, it's holding on to a lot of bass. But still, small battery, you'd expect it to go a little bit louder. But overall, because of the way all these speakers are configured, my winner overall for volume would be default mode in the WKing D9. But at the end of the day, if it's not about maximum volume, which you should, well, I would expect if you're going to buy a speaker and live with it for the rest of your life, it's not just about maximum volume. It's the Go Plus Play. Oh, what a shock! Well, no, I know it's not a shock. It's not a shock to me. Maybe it's a shock to some of you who asked for this particular video. But there you go. It's in black and white. A speaker costing 3 times as much and probably twice the size. Well, what is it? Let's give you the specs in terms of the weight. The Go Plus Play is 3.4 kilos, and actually it's not that much bigger than the X10 at 3 kilos, 2.7 kilos for the D9, 2.5 kilos for the D8. So yeah, maybe not that much difference in terms of weight. In terms of price, as I said, it's about 3 times as much to get the Go Plus Play as any of these speakers. All made in China, of course. All SBC codecs, boo, boo, boo. Old tech on the Harman Kardon Go Plus Play in terms of 4.1 Bluetooth. The D8 is 4.2. The others are all Bluetooth 5. Audio stereo pairing, except for the Harman Kardon Go Plus Play. There may be the workaround. I don't know. Nobody has come back to me yet to say, well, I've got 2 of them, and the workaround has worked. When I say the workaround, the Onyx Studios are all marketed as party mode, double up mode only. But anecdotally, you tell me you can work. There is a workaround, which is not a big workaround. It's just knowing which buttons to press. You can do true wireless stereo pairing with the Onyx Studios, but I don't know at this point that you can do it with the Harman Kardon Go Plus Play. All got USB-C connections except the Go Plus Play. They all, how amazing is that? 2021, all have an auxiliary input. So old-fashioned. Can all be used as a power bank. And the D9 and the X10, and of course the X10 one, have a flash card slot on the back where you can play your music straight off the device itself. The bad news is none of them are IPX7. In fact, there's no IP rating on Harman Kardon Go Plus Play at all. You'd think that looks quite waterproof. No rating at all. I don't know what that's about. We've got IPX5 on the D8, then IPX6 on the D9 and the X10. And they all have 2 woofers, 2 tweeters, and passive radiators. In fact, we've got 3 passive radiators on the X10. And in terms of streaming on YouTube, the only usable one for me was the Go Plus Play, just coming in at 80 milliseconds, which is my cutoff point for usable streaming. So there you go. You asked for the 3 kings. I gave you the 3 kings. They got pretty much annihilated in this A-B comparison. But guys, don't take that as they're not worth buying. They're certainly worth buying. 70 to 100 pounds for these 3 speakers is good value for them. Just remember, it's not hi-fi. So it's going to be slightly crude, but you're going to get decent bass. The sort of people, you don't buy these because you're listening to classical music. You buy these because you're going outdoors, you go around your girlfriend's house, and you just need some background music, or even some loud music at a party. You're not going to do critical listening. You could do some critical listening with the Go Plus Play, still not the greatest in terms of that, but it's certainly a more serious listen than the other 3. And you've got a big, huge dollop of bass, not as deep as the Onyx Studio series, but there's more mids and highs in terms of bass, and there's better balance because it is a wide sound. It does open up. You've got the wide tweeters, wide woofers. You've got a bigger sound overall, even in this comparison. I hope you're hearing something of that. It's just, even if everything else was equal, it sounds bigger because of the way the drivers are orientated. You asked for the review. I gave you the review, and I hope you come back for another review. So thanks for watching.